make sure that their friend gets the girl. Hello everyone, I'm Lynn and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about financial literacy or lack of and insecurities. I am going to be citing a TikTok that was posted yesterday or the day before yesterday. I'm not too sure, but I saw it yesterday. And
so let me tell you guys how I spent 8,000 rand on a first date. Actually not a first date, a first meetup.
okay guys, I'm going to pause the video here. However, I am going to add the link to the actual video on the description box. Please do check out this content creator's story, and also to note it is a South African content creator, so maybe some details you may not understand, but I will explain in my video. I was just bamboozled. I was just amazed. Basically, this guy was talking about how he spent close to 9,000 rand on a date. And the more he goes into detail, the more we just like, what? Like, yes, we understand how it got there, but we also don't understand how it got there. I was planning to talk about this since last year, because last year there was a TikTok that made the rounds across all social medias, and this guy was talking about how Santon clubs are so expensive and you cannot go to one if you still have a payslip job.
Santon is not for payslips, part 1.
I think in jail I'm gonna like this. You see, Santon after 11, it's not for brews with payslips, dog. You can't, dog. You can't compete. Dog. You can't, dog. When you pay sleep, 11, ham we cast, dog.
Also pausing this one, and I will add the link to the description box so that you can see the video for yourself. However, it is an old video dated for last year, I think around May. And I think what finishes me, like makes me haha about this video, is the fact that he added sad music. Ha ha ha. And the story was so wild to me, because I find it very interesting that people were able to pool money in order to secure a girl for their friend. What it comes down to is that people just want to impress others, and they do it without a budget. They do it without thinking about tomorrow. It is almost like a gamble. These two stories are an example of how people live to impress others, because the crux of it is that people just want to make sure that they do not lose. And this is almost like betting, when you put in so much stakes that at the end of the day this has to work out, and if the stakes go higher, you just want to go higher too, because now you've put in so much that there needs to be a return of investment. And that is not the right way of thinking, in my opinion. I can't really tell what other people think about this, but at the end of the day you need to think about tomorrow, your future, and so forth. Which then brings me to this: is social media a problem, and does it influence the way we date? And my answer, I prefer to reserve it until the end of the video. So let me just give a summary of yesterday's TikTok, what we learned about the guy, the situation, and everything. This guy was going on a date with someone he has been talking to for a month, and they clicked very well. So he was saying to her that, let us go on a date, let us meet, because now we have been talking, we click, we like each other's vibe. Come to my set. He's a DJ, so come to my set and hear me play, and then after that we can go on a date. Cool. When this guy is 10 minutes away, the girl texts him and tells him that she would like to bring a friend along. The guy says that it's cool, and because he's going to play, right? He's going to go to the gig and then he's going to play, and then after that the plan is to take her on a proper date to get to know who she is. So he was just cool with it for some reason, and I think that it was because of the nature of the first part of the date. And when he arrives, she's not ready. She takes about 25 minutes to get ready, and as he's waiting, he sees them come out. But the only problem is that there is not just one girl additional to his date. It is 3 more girls, so it means 5 of them. 5 of them come to the car, and he's like, oh my gosh, what's happening? He doesn't ask her. They just like exchange greetings, and then she sits in the front seat, and then they just dash off. The guy drives off, and as he's driving off, he's just thinking, I'm hungry. And because he's hungry, he decides to go to McDonald's drive-thru, and he just wants to order a burger, but he knows that he has to accommodate the people that are in his car. So he orders a Big Mac, and then his date doesn't say anything, but the date's friend says something from the back, and she says that she wants a McFeast. Not only that, she says that she wants 5 McFeasts, spicy McFeasts, if I'm not mistaken. And this guy looks at her and then is just like, okay, cool, because he's trying to impress his date, right? But I think that's what the thing that makes me uncomfortable is that the date is not the one who's talking and making the demands, and that means that he's spending close to 800 rand on the burgers, the meals. She says she wants, or not she wants, she says that the group wants, sorry for that, the group wants 5 extra large McFeast. I think that's how you say it. And I'm not sure about the prices. I will check it just now. And the funny thing about this is that as I'm checking, it just hits me that McDonald's is getting free advertisement, because I never knew how much it costs, but I'm here researching. Oh, it's 114, almost 120 rand. And I didn't know that. What happened to the prices? Okay, let me not go off topic because this is very deep. Anyways, this guy then drives off to the gig, which is in Sandton. So they were driving from Pretoria to Sandton. And when they get to the gig, they just chill, and then he needs to play ASAP. But he takes them through to VIP section, and then that's where they were going to order whatever they were going to order. And he goes to the toilet quickly. When he comes back, he has to play. He doesn't have the time to sort of control what is happening at his table where he has his date and her friends. So he plays, and at the corner of his eye, he sees that the girls are ordering champagne, food, and all those things. But in his head, he's thinking that they are going to pay for it, so he pays no mind. He plays, he orders hubbly, he orders whatever drink he needs to order, and then they all have a good time, they all enjoy. He finishes his set, and then when he goes to the table, the girls are fine, everything is cool. And then as he is about to leave, the bartender tells him that he has to pay. He then looks at the girls like, what the hell is happening? Because that wasn't the arrangement. But the thing is, it wasn't communicated, so it's a bit tricky because he didn't say what was expected. They didn't say what was expected. The girls offered to tip the bartender 200 rand, which is very, very little considering where they are clubbing, which is in Sandton. It's very little to tip that, especially if you spent 8,000 rand. Okay, so what was on everyone's mind is, why did he agree to have the friend tag along? Because that's when the problem started. And I agree. As soon as she suggested the friend, I think that's where the problem started. I've never heard of a story where a friend was included in a date and it ended very well. And I understand that there are stories in South Africa regarding femicide and so forth. However, going on a date with someone, and then you come with a friend, it is no longer considered a date. It's maybe a get together of some sort, which I feel like it would have been better if they had already gotten to know each other and they know how the other person works, and yeah, they're sort of comfortable with each other, because that's the whole point of going on a date, right? To learn each other and to get comfortable around each other. So when there is a third party, it sort of defeats the purpose of it. It brings me to this conclusion. There is something very sinister happening in the dating pool. There is a lot of disrespect, disregard, inconsideration for others, where, yes, it does come down to the type of person that this guy is. Everyone says that this guy is too kind, he's a good person, he's decent, and he just wants to make sure that the experience of the date is lived to its fullest. I do understand that. However, just because someone is a good person, it does not mean that they should be taken advantage of. Secondly, why could he not just say no? And this is something that I battle to understand. I do understand that human beings operate very differently from each other and so forth. However, whenever the complaints about women are leeches and they are very money hungry and they gold diggers and so forth, whenever that topic comes up, what I do and ask myself is, why do people just not say no? What happens? What is the worst thing that can happen if you say no? Yes, you can be called broke. However, some situations require you to say no, like this one. How do you spend 8,000 rand on a date that isn't even a date, and it wasn't permitted by you? You were supposed to say no from the get-go, and I'm not trying to victim shame, but I see that there is an issue of insecurities and wanting to please people who cannot do anything for you, because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. These are people who will do nothing for him in the long run, and although it is fun and the lights are on and they're dancing, you need to think for your future. You cannot think for now. And I battle so much to understand why you would go to an extent of spending so much money on someone that you don't even know, and people that you don't know, because this was not just spent on a date. Hi guys, no ways. So now I ask myself, why do people go to such an extent to prove something to strangers? The inability to say no whenever you are faced with a financial crisis that happens before you, and it's something that is very silly, like spending on drinks, spending on food, something that is, I mean, you're going to poop it. Like in a few hours it's going to be out of your system. I think that it goes back to just wanting to prove that I can, and you don't want to seem like the loser that everyone talks about on the internet. You have this and that, and it's a way of not being comfortable with your class and not being comfortable with where you are. Because if you were comfortable with that, then you would be okay with saying no, and you would be okay with someone seeing you for the real you, which is someone that cannot provide for that particular moment or that particular thing. If we really look at it, 8,000 rand can go a long way, and it is someone's salary. We live in South Africa, and the minimum wage in South Africa is, it says here that it is about 4,737 rand to 5,610 rand per month. Yes, we could argue that some people earn way more than that, and we could also say that this guy earns way more than this money and he could make it in a weekend. However, if that was the case, he wouldn't share his grievances about spending way more than he could afford. 8,000 rand is way more than the regular South African earns. So I'm just really, I don't know. It's not, I don't feel particularly sorry for this person. I feel like they have learned their lesson, and I feel like a lot of people can learn from this. The worst part is that you can also tell that his date is a pushover, because she is not the one calling the shots. She's just the person that is in the situation where she likes this guy and this guy likes her too. But it won't be evident because of the events that played out. She does not have the ability to say no to her friend. You are taking it too far, you're doing this and this. And I feel like they had a genuine connection, but because she is in the squad that she's in, she is the type of person that is the yes man in the squad. So whatever Buleng says goes, and she doesn't question it. In hindsight, this guy had a blessing in disguise, because had he went on a date with this girl on her own, he would not have seen what kind of person she is around her friends. Imagine you date someone, or you go on a date with someone, they're cool and all, and then next thing you're in a relationship with them only to find that they are squad deep basically, and they are the type of people who listen to their friends, and based on what the friends say, it's what goes. So they don't have a mind of their own. That is very problematic. So in hindsight, this guy dodged the bullet because he saw the kind of person that she was. And it's not that she's a terrible person, but a person who's a pushover cannot be a good partner, because they'll always base their decisions based on what everyone else is saying. I feel that this is why the guy is defending the girl, because he knows deep down he built a connection with her outside of her friends. So what he is holding on to is the image of what he was sold. It doesn't mean that the girl is a bad person. It just means that she is a pushover, like I say. So if you see him on social media and he's trying to, soften the girl up, it's not because he's stupid. It's just because in his mind, she is still the prize because of their own connection. I think that we are operating from a standpoint of gambling whenever it comes to dating. And I do understand that the stakes are high in terms of the other options our potential partners may have, but we also need to be okay with being rejected. This is not the first or last time that something like this will happen, since we are so deep into wanting to appease the next person. And I'm not saying that it's new, I'm saying that social media has amplified this need for validation. I also want to talk about how the optics of having a baddie on your hand or on your arm is it's one of the big reasons why this thing will keep happening. And I'm not saying that she's a baddie. Obviously, I don't know what she looks like, but I just want to say how it influences these kind of decisions that men make. Because in as much as we want to ignore that we are influenced, we very much are. It shows up in situations where we are most vulnerable and where we feel like we are cornered. So we need to sort of work on ourselves and decide what works for us, what doesn't. And this is where standards come in. And this is where we need to be firm and decide what it is that works and what doesn't. And be okay with rejection, really. All in all, that's what it's all about. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching my video right up to the end. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.